Been dying to talk to you. We all have. Hi.
Hi, darling. Lovely to see you, and thank you for having me on again.
Oh my God.
So,
we all want to talk to you. There's so many more questions.
Thank you.
It's been amazing. I've like literally so many women have been DMing. I've seen them in the street, like some of the local girls, my friend Lorraine, after buying the book, The Human Being Diet, and have been having such amazing results from it. So
it's so exciting. It's so heartwarming. I mean, really amazing. And thank you for helping to spread the word, because it's actually, you know, when we know how to do it, it's not so hard. You know, it's hard. It's a pretty tough first 2 weeks, but after that, you know, it's easy, and you just feel so much better. So it makes it
people
easier
have
to
been,
see.
yeah, they've been getting great results. Like people are really happy with it. So thank you so much. I wanted to talk today about the inflammation. You sent me a test to do, and I was really curious about this, because let's talk about inflammation, because you do touch on it on the book. You talk about, what is it? Low grade inflammation. So can we just kind of touch on, explain the low grade inflammation in general, and how that affects our systems, our skin, our bodies, our weight, everything?
Everything. Well, inflammation is it's a part of the immune system, really. And in the way we evolved, we kind of we had to learn to deal with short, sharp shocks, like, you know, being attacked by a wild animal or getting a bacterial infection. You know, something the immune system recognized and could mount this big response against to make us better again. So really, you could say that inflammation is the start of the healing process, because, you know, if the immune system isn't activated by the inflammation and vice versa, then nothing's going to happen. You know, the bacterial infection would just run away with itself, and, you know, and we die.
So it's that fight or flight reaction in our bodies.
Fight or flight reaction, and that fight or flight reaction actually automatically activates the immune system. You know, because if we're fighting or fleeing, you know, chances are we're going to get injured, and then we'll need the immune system to come in and help sort everything out, you know, fight the bacteria, and start the healing, you know, the wound healing. But what we have now, which we, you know, it's a relatively recent thing in our, you know, in our evolutionary past. When you think of, you know, apparently 50,000 years ago, we came out of Africa in our present form, and we haven't changed, you know, in that last 50,000 years. And when we think about it, you know, how our environment has changed, you know, we're flying to the moon, you know, we've got computers and internet, we're creating masses of pollution for ourselves and everything else. So we're still reacting to our modern stress as if they're ancient stresses. And it doesn't actually help us at all in any way if our fight or flight system is activated by the sight of a traffic warden. You know, it should have been a lion, really. And so what's happening now is that instead of this, you know, short, sharp inflammation, we've got this kind of rumbling inflammation, and that's chronic inflammation or low grade inflammation. And that happens because ideally when we've got this short, sharp shock, the immune system activation shoots up really high, the inflammation shoots up really high, it reaches a peak, and then it's switched off. It takes about 4 days, and then everything starts to calm down again.
4 days?
Yeah.
Crikey, I thought it would like subside within like a couple of minutes, or once you kind of could calm yourself down a little bit by breathing, or oh my God. So we're just constantly, we must just all just be just constantly in a state of fight or flight all the time, with our hormones just like,
there's always something going on that stresses us out. You know, we've got this kind of chronic anxiety about what's going to happen in the future, or, you know, are our loved ones going to pull through, you know, this, well, not Alzheimer's obviously, but, you know, so it's like, you know, dealing with a lot of uncertainty, which means that our immune system is always activated, but it doesn't reach that peak. It kind of goes up a little bit, and then it just kind of rumbles along like that. And part of the problem is that we've got, which we were talking about, too much omega-6 in our diet and not enough omega-3. Now, omega-6 is very important because it is, you know, one of the instigators of this very necessary inflammation, without which there'd be no healing. But because we lack the omega-3, we actually lack the anti-inflammatory properties of that. And we also lack the switch to turn the inflammation off. So the off switch for the inflammation for the immune system is provided by DHA, which is part of the omega-3 family of fats. And so we're set up for a kind of long-term chronic state of inflammation, because we're anxious, because we're stressed. You know, we've got deadlines, we've got mortgages to pay, all that kind of thing. Also because we're eating the wrong kind of food, you know, food that our genes really don't recognize, you know, all that processed stuff. masses of sugar. And so when we eat too much sugar, our immune system is activated by what it sees as a danger signal. That danger signal is high blood sugar. You know, so it's really, really basic stuff. And when we start to address our diet and start to eat more fruit and vegetables, so we're getting the, you know, the antioxidants from the fruit and vegetables, which are in themselves very anti-inflammatory, then we can, you know, we can turn things around. So, you know, whatever state we're in now, the good news is that we can switch the inflammation off and get back to, you know, and just feeling more cheerful about things.
Yeah.
Because when we're in a state of inflammation, we're also likely to be depressed, or maybe not even depressed, but just feeling less vibrant than we could do. And actually, yeah.
And also, I think it's quite confusing because, for example, like I don't own scales at home. I never have, because I just find it quite, I fluctuate a lot. But I know that people who have been on diets that do weigh themselves, because of the inflammation, perhaps the stress that they're having, you know, the cortisol levels completely spiked, the insulin, the sugars, like you might not eat anything that's necessarily calorific, but then the next day you might jump on the scales and be, you know, be a few pounds heavier. And it's quite hard for people to understand and to work that out. And that is things that are being triggered within your system. You're puffy, your insides are inflamed, and that is what's causing the weight to increase on the scale. So it's not necessarily fat.
No, it could be water retention. You know, if you've had extra salt the day before, or it was a very hot day or whatever, or if you haven't slept very well, or if you haven't had a good poo, that's, you know, that's something really, it's a very important thing to bear in mind. You know, that people who are chronically constipated, when they start the program, they lose weight a lot initially, losing a lot of water weight. But if you stop going to the loo, you know, all that stuff gets backed up, and actually it's got to come out. And if it doesn't come out, then it's going to look heavy on the scales as well. The scales can't tell what's what. And I think it's a horrible way to start the day, you know, to jump on the scales in the morning, you know, feeling full of optimism, looking forward to the day ahead and thinking, oh no. So it's really good that you don't do that.
It's very Bridget Jones. It's very Bridget Jones. I just remember, like, she'd always be on the scales in the morning, in the evening, and it just becomes obsessive. And I think, you know, I've always kind of gauged it with how my clothes fit and how I feel. You know, I think that you can kind of, if you listen to your body a lot, I mean, it's different for everybody. Some people really like to keep an eye on that, but it's also quite tricky if you're building muscle, because muscle weighs more than fat. So you kind of have to give yourself a little bit of a re-education and a talking to, because otherwise you'll just drive yourself mad. Because if you are working out and you're building muscle, you know, you are going to be heavier in pounds, kilos, stones, but it's more about being healthy than kind of really obsessing on what the numbers say.
Yeah, you're right, Lisa, and that's a really useful thing that you said about your clothes, because what's better than weighing ourselves is taking our measurements, you know, every 2 weeks or something, round the tummy button, round the widest part of the hips, which might not feel like it's the hips at all, because it could be lower down, more like thighs, the widest bit, and then round the top of the left or right leg, again the widest part. Because as you say, the scales might not change, but you know, maybe you're getting more muscle and you're burning the fat, and you'll be able to see that in your measurements as well as your clothes. So really, really good tip, Lisa. Yeah.
So would you recommend because it was a pinprick test that I did with you to see balances of the omega-3s and the omega-6s. Yeah, and I was quite blown away, because I've never, so what I did is I had to do a pinprick test, Petronella sent me, and then I sent it off. And then you reminded me, you were like, let's check your results online. So I checked the results online, and miraculously there was a big happy green smiley face saying, you're balanced. And I was like, I've never been told that I've been balanced before.
And I've never seen anybody balanced before.
How did that happen?
So I wasn't planning on having this conversation. I was thinking, well, you know, we're going to have this talk about inflammation and what you can do to reduce the inflammation. But you're perfect. I don't know if you can see the results here. You see, everything's in the green. Can you see that? And
yes.
And mine, I've only got one in the green.
So is that like, can you talk about the factors that contribute towards that? I mean, I eat a lot of fish. I've stopped eating meat. I'm not saying that that's what you need to do. It's just it's a personal choice. I eat a lot of fish, a lot of salmon. I also take Dr. Perricone, I take the omega-3s. And I also sometimes, now I've run out, I'm taking the krill oil. So that's all omega-3s, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of water.
Yeah. No, that's
And
fantastic. I mean, one of the things you said about eating meat is that cows, for instance, are supposed to eat grass, right? But they don't eat grass anymore. They eat grains, and grains are high in omega-6. Whereas, the meat should be high in omega-3. And I was talking to somebody who's this is called a sustainable butcher, I think. And he said that his grass-fed meat has a very similar fatty acid profile to salmon, which is
really,
yeah,
wowzers.
yeah, really amazing. So what this is looking at is looking at your omega-3 level, i.e. how much omega-3 you actually have in your body. And remembering that omega-3 is really important because it's anti-inflammatory. And then it's looking at the omega-6 to 3 balance. And I was looking forward to saying to you, Lisa, well, you see, sweetie, this is all out of balance and you've got too much omega-6, but you're perfect.
Well, no, I'm not perfect because you maybe get some 6.
Yeah.
So I do need a little 6. So I've got a lot. 3's okay, but I need more 6.
You need more.
So I've been taking one of those. So should I still take my omega-3s?
Yeah,
just
definitely.
Continue as normal. Okay, fine.
Normal.
Because I was a bit like, wow, I mean, I was quite confused. But can I ask you a question? So in the past, I don't think that I have been balanced for various reasons. So my diet I haven't always liked to kind of eat as much fruit and veg as I do now, and as much kind of good quality fish. And I used to suffer a lot with pigmentation. And now I'm putting that down a little bit. Obviously, the sun, contraceptive pill, hormone imbalances, which I guess is again a stress related reaction.
Yeah, it's all to do with inflammation. Yeah.
And perhaps eating the wrong food. So I used to eat a lot of fried foods, a lot of burgers. I mean, I still love don't judge me, I still do like a little cheeky chip and fish and chips and pizzas and stuff. But it's all about balance. But I think that I was eating a lot of eggs, and eggs I'm intolerant to. So I think things that you're eating that your system doesn't like, does it come out in your skin? So because it's cleared up a lot. I mean, obviously I do a lot of beauty stuff, but I think it's
it looks beautiful, it looks fantastic. But yeah, it's all to do with inflammation and getting the right kind of fats and getting enough antioxidants, the natural inflammatories from fruit and vegetables. But honestly, Lisa, your results are absolutely fantastic. The other thing that's really important about this is something called cell membrane fluidity, because our cells should be like jellyfish, really, really fluid. And the more fluid they are, the better they are at communicating with the cells next door, and those cells in turn, making up the tissues. So we want lots of omega-3 in these cells. When we've got too much omega-6, the cell membranes literally becomes too stiff and they don't communicate with the other cells. And that has a knock-on effect on hormone balance and almost everything else you can think of, including, skin, wrinkles, things like that. So your balance is absolutely perfect. And the omega-6, the one you you weren't really short of it. It was just everything else was so perfect. So I was desperately trying to find something that's it's just marginally too low. And that's also important.
So by taking a good quality omega-3 capsule, the oils, I know that we've got this balance oil, which has also got the omega and it's got the vitamin D. By taking this and having this in our diet, as well as obviously fresh fish, will that help us to also lose weight or build muscle?
It does, because actually the more inflamed we are, the harder it is to lose weight. And it's a really unfair kind of catch-2 situation, because the fat cells themselves produce inflammation. And so, it makes it hard at the beginning, but eventually the body says, all right then, keep putting the omega-3 in, keep eating the fruit, and well, mainly veg actually. The inflammation subsides and then we start to really burn the fat. Yeah.
Amazing.
The other thing about that oil is it contains olive oil. And olive oil has these really interesting antioxidants called polyphenols. And the guy who invented this stuff was somebody called Paul Clayton, very clever scientist. And he found that he had an autoimmune thyroid problem. And he knew that if he took the fish oil by itself, it wouldn't really help. He needed the olive oil, which helps to take the fish oil into not the fish oil, but the omega-3 into the actual cells. So at that time, he was swigging olive oil and swigging fish oil. And he said it was pretty tough, pretty hard. So he came up with this product. And that's why, some people, not you, sweetie, but a lot of people who've been supplementing with omega-3 for years and years and years, their levels are still really bad because they weren't having enough olive oil. So I guess you like olive oil too.
I do. I mean, that's all I really put on my salads. I just put like olive oil, lemon, and a bit of salt and pepper.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really simple when it comes to that sort of thing, because I know that there was all this controversy about cooking with olive oil and the carcinogenic, is it carcinogenic?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously they were saying it burns when you cook,
Yes.
basically, which is actually quite toxic for the body. But what is your stance on that?
Well, that's right. I can't remember when that study came out, but it sort of made everybody very nervous. Probably if you're deep fat frying with olive oil, it's it's not very good for you. But we don't do that. Well, mostly we don't. We're shallow frying, sautéing things in a frying pan, not super high temperatures. And as long as you get extra virgin olive oil, it's even less damaged by the heat. It's really, really good for us. And that's probably a big part of the secret of the Mediterranean diet is the olive oil. It's
Absolutely.
miraculous stuff. Like we
They
said last
look
time
great. Their blood pressure's low. It's just that lovely, just lots of rich, healthy ingredients. I think that you're right. That study came out and it just threw everybody. It was like, oh, we need to replace it with sunflower, vegetable, rapeseed. All of these things which just don't appeal. I think it's like the olive oil just seems really the natural source.
It is
where it's at.
And like rapeseed oil, that they've done fantastic PR on that, whoever did it. And it's marketed as a high omega-3 oil. It's not. It's a high omega-6 oil with some omega-3 in it. And it was originally engine oil. And I don't know what happened to it, but it was processed in a way that, that made it edible or less toxic to human beings. But it's really, and it tastes disgusting anyway. It's really not.
Engine oil.
Engine oil, yeah. So, let's not. Yeah. And as you're right, sunflower oil, again, really high omega-6. And I've had a few vegans do the test, and sadly their ratios are all over the place, because basically all vegan food is high in omega-6, and you can't get the omega-3s unless you eat a lot of seaweed, algae, which most people
really
don't. Yeah.
Somebody said avocado oil. What do we think about avocado oil?
Avocado oil is great. It's great. It's not really anything to do with the omega-6, omega-3. It's more like olive oil. It's omega-9. It's good and very good for our skin. Yeah.
Really good for our skin. I mean, this is all about balance. This is what it's about with the human being diet. It's not, it's not like starving yourself of any, it's about being sensible. I mean, I know that a lot of people have gone to town and have followed is it the 60? I haven't done it. That's the thing, because I haven't done the full on strip it all out, no oil, just vegetables. And I'm huge props to you girls and guys that have been doing it and are getting the weight is dropping off you. I take what, like, I read it. I love the sun, the fact that you're a big promoter of like getting that vitamin D and the sun, and all sorts of things on here, like the protein, the not snacking in between, the 3 meals a day, that each mouthful has to be protein, preferably one protein with each meal, so the body
know all the rules and everything. You say.
I know. I know the rules. I've read it, but I haven't quite got to the stage where I've done resets before, when I've gone away to retreats and things like that. So I kind of have dipped in and out of that, and it does really serve my body and my system really well. I just think it's really interesting because you do talk about bowel movements, which a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but you do have to be going regularly. You do need to be drinking a shit load of water, for want of a better, lots and lots of water, more than we can possibly even imagine that we need.
Exactly. And remember that half litre first thing in the morning. It's just such a brilliant thing to do.
That is a game changer. That is a game changer. Since I saw you a year or 2 years ago, I literally have a bottle of water by my bed. First thing I do is just down it. And it just kick-starts the system. It helps to flush the kidneys. It's good for the skin. You go to the toilet straight away. Some people are asking what the name of the book is. It's called The Human Being Diet. I'm going to tag it again because it's like my Bible. This is a brand new copy, by the way. The one by my bed isn't so nice and neat, because it's just really good to kind of refer to if you do have any questions about anything. And it's really brilliantly written. It's not super complicated. It's like easy to digest.
Thank you. Yeah, very good.
No, and so I love it. And I wanted to also talk to you about fasting, because you do talk about that on the front cover. It says a new way of feasting and fasting for energy, health and longevity. Now, I have been doing the 16-8 pretty much most days. which is basically 16 hours from your last meal the night before. And actually, it's quite easy to do.
Really
And I
easy.
think that this is the secret ingredient that just keeps the hunger at bay.
It does. You stretch out your tummy, that hunger signal, you know, it's called ghrelin. Ghrelin goes to the brain when the stomach shrinks and says, there's nothing here, you better eat something. But you have a big glass of water and ghrelin goes away again. And it really ramps up our metabolic rate too. We were talking about dehydration last time, you know, as one of the main things that slows our metabolism down. So it's really important to be well hydrated. And the other thing is, I was just thinking about, why is it called the human being diet? Because these are the foods, normal foods, you know, that you can get in any little supermarket that us human beings evolved on. You know, it's what we grew our brains on, and you know, and what makes us human. That, you know, normal unprocessed fruit and vegetables, good, you know, good quality protein, speaks to our DNA. It's a really weird idea, and tells our DNA to turn off the genes for inflammation. You know, to turn on the anti-inflammatory genes. So it's so easy in a way just to eat normal food and to stay away from all that processed packaged stuff, all of which is also high omega-6. And sugar, you know, sugar is the, you know, Lisa, you're super interested in you know, maintaining your beautiful skin and everything else, and sugar is the enemy, you know. And I sometimes think it's quite helpful to think about sugar as the sugar monster. You know, it's lurking there, you know, it's always kind of tempting us and trying to lure us in. And actually, we need to say to Sugar Monster, I am going to starve you to death. I'm not giving you any sugar at all. And what happens is that little sweet tooth, that Sugar Monster, shrivels and shrivels and shrivels, and then eventually it dies. And
Does it?
Yeah, it does. It's hard to believe.
I don't know if my sugar monster will ever die. It's bigger than me. It's huge. No, because I do love a little bit of dark chocolate, but then that hasn't got much sugar in it, has it? So that's fine.
Perfect. Yeah, as long as it's not that. Yeah, it's 70% or higher.
Yeah, 70 or 100%. I love it. The darker the better, and it's got loads of antioxidants, iron. It's got some good stuff in it, hasn't it? Magnesium, exactly, which if you're not taking, you have to take, because that is so good for our bowel movement, so good for muscle recovery, and so good for sleep. We touched on that before. Clifty Slaps, amazing name, has said, should you drink water with meals? Now, I've always been confused about this because of the digestive, because of the acid, the digestive acid, the enzymes in our stomach. You shouldn't dilute them, should you, with water so much when you're having your food?
I mean, the thing is, if you're drinking a lot of water between meals, you're probably not going to be thirsty at mealtime. It's just that, you know, very often we stop what we're doing, we sit down and we eat, and we suddenly realize we're very thirsty. So then we probably drink too much water. And you're right, you know, about diluting the acid and the enzymes. But if we're drinking between meals, when we sit down, we're not actually thirsty. We're just hungry. So, yeah, so it shouldn't really be a problem as long as you're drinking enough in between. But if you haven't drunk enough in between and you're sitting down and you haven't had a chance to have a drink of water, do have a drink of water.
Yeah. And also, if you're hungry, I'd suggest just having water, you know, because I sometimes think that, you know, you just want to stuff some crackers and cheese in your mouth, which
like I was hungover, my brain wasn't working. But as the gut kind of heals up again and the inflammation subsides, you can get away with it, a bit of it now and then. You know, it's not so bad. And it gave me so much pleasure. I thought it can't be doing that much harm.
Oh, did you have any Parmesan on it as well? A little bit.
I didn't. I tasted it first and didn't even need it.
Yummy spring truffles. I love it.
Yeah.
No, you're right. So if you give your system a break, you can reintroduce things in, and obviously not bombard your system again with the wrong foods and the wheats and the dairies and sugar. But if you want a little treat every now and then, I think it's good, especially pasta. Come on now. It's like, there was something else that you were talking about before. Is that the name of the little thing? It's not the gremlin, but it sounds like it. What's it called? Did you?
Ghrelin.
Ghrelin.
Yeah.
So that's not the same, because I know that people have said about probiotics and prebiotics for the gut. But when you talked to me before, you told me that if you are fasting, then it gives your stomach, there's something in your tummy that works together to eat away all the what's that?
Yeah, so that's a little microbe called Akkermansia.
Okay.
And Akkermansia, it literally nibbles away at the lining of the gut and it makes it more resilient, so it makes it less leaky, which is very good. But it's only doing that when we're fasting. So, you know, every time we eat something, we're going to put Akkermansia to sleep. All those little microbes, they can't get on with any of their housekeeping. And the other thing that happens when we fast is it's called MMF, motor migratory factor or something, which starts in the stomach. And it's like this wave that goes through the stomach and all the way down through the intestines. and it sweeps away all the undigested food, any debris that's hanging about there. But again, if we don't have the fast between meals, we're not going to get that. And that actually is signified by the rumbling of our tummies. So we can actually hear that in action. So it might be embarrassing, but now you know, you can say, well, that's just my MMF, you know. I'm just doing a bit of internal housekeeping here.
The cleaners are in.
Yeah, the cleaners are in.
But the thing is, you think that rumble signifies, oh, I'm hungry, I've got to eat, you know. That's like kind of what we've been programmed into thinking, that is like,
Exactly.
you know,
but
hunger.
Actually it's just this incredible machine getting to work and clearing things out while it's got the chance. So just ignore it. Say that's great. Yeah, carry on down there.
I love that. So the 5 hours at least between meals is really obviously recommended, and I did notice a big difference. No snacking, just 5 hours at least. Sometimes if you want to go 7-8 hours in between, not eating after 9 p.m. at night, and not having meals longer than an hour. Yeah.
Good.
So you know, like, yeah. So but then with the fasting for me, so the 16-8, would you recommend doing that every day or a couple of times a week, just to kind of like kickstart the system and get it kind of, because obviously you're having like a calorie deficit if you're not having your breakfast, so you're only having 2 meals a day, so then you are going to lose a little bit of weight, as long as you're obviously hydrating and moving. And
yeah, the thing is, it happened to me as well, you know, that saying, you know, do what you've always done, you'll get what you always get. Well, actually it's not true. Around menopause all sorts of weird things happen, and I found myself putting on weight, and I was doing a lot of research into it and found a man called Jack Kruse. He's a brilliant researcher, and he says that if we have protein, he says within 30 minutes of waking up, that sort of resets our leptin, insulin. You know, leptin, we can be leptin resistant and insulin resistant. If we're leptin resistant, we're hungry all the time, which is, you know, obviously not what we want. And although I was really averse to having breakfast, I started to do that. So if somebody wants to lose weight, I would say definitely have breakfast. When you're where you want to be again, then you can cut it out and do the long fast. That's fantastic. The 16-8, really, really great. But if you want to lose weight, I would say definitely have breakfast, at least within an hour of waking, and make sure that it's a protein breakfast. And if you can't face eating, you can have whey protein or pea protein or something like that. It doesn't have to be eggs or fish or chicken or whatever. But that really, really made the difference for me and the people I see in the clinic. It really changes things.
So like a smoothie of some sort, would you recommend that? But not too much fruit, because I know that if you are trying to lose weight, obviously fruit is still sugar, so you've always recommended to...
Exactly. So you can
berries, like the berries and things like that, are the lower
berries, sugar, avocado, something like that. That would be perfect. Yeah.
Yummy.
But if you don't want to lose weight, then and you're not interested in breakfast, then don't eat it. You know, the idea of breakfast being the most important meal of the day, that was probably something to do with the Industrial Revolution. They wanted people to have breakfast, or they collapsed while they were working. But actually, you know, in our caveman days, whatever, in our deep distant past, we never rocked out of our cave and ate something. We had to go and look for it. We always exercised first, so we were fully awake before we had anything to eat.
So in the book also you say to exercise on an empty stomach, don't you? You say rather than kind of like, you know, I guess it's just different. If you're sort of going for a 12-mile run, then maybe you might need a little something in the tank before you exercise. If you're going to go and do a yoga, a Pilates, or even an hour's training, I personally don't feel like I need anything. Maybe a little cup of green tea. But is that okay, having your coffee on an empty stomach or your green tea on an empty stomach? It's not really ideal, is it?
Again, I mean, I have to say I do that. You know, it's the only reason I go to bed at night is I think about getting up and having coffee in the morning. But if, again, you know, if you're after weight loss or hormone balancing, anything like that, and you're following the advice in the book, then do follow it, and don't have the coffee on an empty stomach, because it does affect our blood sugar. Some of us more than others, especially if you're the kind of person who notices when you have a lot of coffee, you feel jittery. That's blood sugar in action. Yeah. That means your blood sugar shot up quite high and then crashed down. And that's not good for us.
It's not good, because then you're just shaking and then you can't focus, and then you're just hungry. And you just want to stuff bread into your mouth, which is like the opposite. Chunks of cheese and bread. I think of you. I'm like, oh no, Petronella would kill me right now. just and chocolate sometimes, and you just want to kind of like, I don't know, get on back onto an even keel, which is false, it's
Exactly.
false pretenses, isn't it? So George has been doing the OMAD diet, which we talked about briefly on the phone, you and I, which is the 1 meal a day.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it. Some days I can do it, some days I don't realize I've done it, and I've been really busy and I've actually only had like water, and then, you know, by about 5 o'clock I'm like, oh my god, I need to have food, but I haven't eaten all day. But he has been amazing and actually lost weight through doing it. I don't know if that's just a bloke thing. I think men just maybe lose fat more easily.
Well, men, you know, when you think about it, that they were the hunters going out hunting, they weren't snacking as they went, whereas girls always had their little handbags to collect things in case the boys didn't catch anything. And so they were like snacking on the way. But it's, you know, it's a good thing for all of us. It's a really good challenge to go all day. And as you say, if you're busy, then the time flies and you don't think about it. You're not hungry because you're busy, busy, busy. And just keep drinking the water. And that's a really, really good reset. So I think it's excellent. And, you know, even think about doing a water fast for 2 or 3 days. There's nothing wrong, not longer than that, but there's nothing wrong with 2 or 3 days. It's a good thing to do. And we're designed to go for long periods of time. You know, this feast and famine thing, we're designed to be able to go for long periods of time without dying of starvation. But what we don't want to do is, so we want to, you know, burn through our fat, get rid of that, but we don't want to start burning through our muscles. And that's what happens if we fast for too long. The body's got no other fuel. So it literally starts eating itself, you know, breaks down muscles to use for energy. So we don't want to do that.
No.
But, you know, now and then.
I'll try a day or two, maybe.
Yeah.
I'll try a day or two. I'm just going to look and see if there's any questions here for us.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting because, you know, like you said, something like the Industrial Revolution perhaps set off this whole breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. But actually, cavemen days, you would have your biggest meal at night because the men would hopefully come home with something huge. You cook it up, you'd feast, and you'd fall asleep on a full tummy. Yeah, so I guess it's sort of
looking at that flickering fire, listening to all the stories being told. You know, I love that picture, and it's a really good thing to try and recreate that in our minds when we're sitting down in the evening to eat. You know, really focus on what we're doing, you know, rather than multitasking our phone and everything else, and think about our ancestors. You know, probably a lot of the time they were very, very hungry, you know, so when they got to put something in the pot and they got this lovely fire and they were in the pitch dark in Africa, listening to those stories, filling their tummies. I just love that picture. Really nice. Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? That sense of community as well, like all family, like all together and just talking, like, because I know so many of us are on our phones and watching the telly and, like you say, multitasking rather than just kind of being very mindful of like what's going on.
Yeah. No, it's nice.
It's really nice.
And just generally, you know, when we're eating, to think about what we're eating. And, you know, people in the old days used to say grace. Actually saying grace gets us ready for what's to come, because really digestion starts in the brain before it starts in the mouth, before it starts in the tummy. You know, thinking about what we're going to eat and how it's going to make us feel, and all that starts the digestive process. So it's much better for us on very many levels.
That's really interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
So original Bayesian girl, she's throwing out her rapeseed. Good girl, throw it out. Sebi's mummy says, I take omega 3, 6, 7, 9. Can you tell me what the 7 and 9 do? I don't even know there was 7 and 9. Tell me what does that do?
So 9 is like avocado, and
so that's the avocado and
and 7 is things like buckthorn seed. But really, I wouldn't take them all together. I know they're sold like that because if we take the omega 3 and the omega 6 together, chances are we'll only absorb the omega 3. And I don't know what happens if we take them with the so I would say take the omega 3 in the morning and take the omega 6 at night, and have your olive oil.
Okay.
That's going to help everything.
Does this come in different flavors?
So it's lemon, mint, and orange, or grapefruit, lemon, and something else. Yeah.
So all quite zesty and flavoury. Okay, cool. I'm going to put a link. Well, will you send me the link so we can?
Yeah, and you can put that on your salad. It's so delicious.
That's what I was thinking, because it's got the olive oil, it's got the omega, so then you're omega 3, so you're absorbing, your body's absorbing it, because so many vitamins and minerals, you do need that, not a carrier, but you need that.
It is a carrier, exactly.
it's a
Yeah.
carry to,
Yeah.
you know, absorb in, for the body to really welcome it, I guess.
Exactly.
So Vivimax, this is probably the best supplement for inflammation. Yes?
Yeah,
Yeah?
definitely. Really, really good.
That's a really good one. Nat's watching. Great book. She loved it.
Good. Thank
It's
you.
a good one. It's a good one. And then, yeah, Lucia Leo, we said about rapeseed, it's not good. It's basically engine oil that's been repackaged over the years. A really good marketing campaign.
Yeah. I mean, I
God,
had a guy who came to see me a couple of years ago. He had terrible lung problems, and he had a specialist in London, and she forbade all her patients from having anything to do with rapeseed oil. She said it had a really bad effect on the lungs, which I thought was really interesting. I'm going to try and find out what her name is, because apparently she's published a couple of papers on it too. So that'd be really
that's so interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to tell my whole family, because like you said, we all changed. We were like, right, olive oil, we can't cook with it anymore. We can't, you know, and it was just literally banned as far as cooking. I mean, I love it, like you say, on salads, having it raw, that real Mediterranean, on tomatoes, but not cooking with it. Well, I still do. I just put a little bit on my skin of my fish
You cook
with a little salt and pepper, and then I just pan fry it.
Yeah, as long as it's the extra virgin, it's got all those antioxidants which protect it from the heat. So we always thought, oh, extra virgin, that's even more fragile. Mustn't do any cooking with that. But actually, that is the best thing to cook with.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't have
Delicious. Making me hungry talking about it all. Shaminka is halfway through this book. She's sitting in Babington House. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just jealous. That's all I'm saying. I've made my few days here, trying to educate my husband. Ha, thank you. You're so welcome. Then there's a picture of Babington House. Not jealous at all. Yeah, a lot of people are saying it's life-changing. It really is. It's such an education, this book. Lime water in the morning, first thing. So what I do is I have my normal water, and then I just go downstairs and have a hot water with lemon or lime.
Yeah.
Does it?
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Very alkalizing.
Yeah, absolutely. Lorraine, she's reading it. She said it's brilliant. A lot of people are really, really, really enjoying it. There are some recipes in there as well. There was loads of other things. I can't remember what it is now that I want to talk to you about. Cravings. What is this thing called? Kudzu.
Yeah. Well, it was given to these poor hamsters. You know, usually they do all the experiments on those poor old rats, but this time they got a bunch of hamsters, because hamsters are the only other mammals, I think, who are prone to alcoholism. If they're given alcohol, they turn to little alcoholics.
Wow. They're like, give me a glass of white wine any day.
Exactly. So they got two groups of hamsters, one alcoholic group, one non-alcoholic group. And they gave the alcoholic hamsters kudzu. And then a couple of weeks later, they put them in this cage, and there was a choice of, say, vodka or white wine and water. And the ones who'd had the kudzu chose the water. Isn't
Wow.
It
So it helps with
works.
sugar and alcohol cravings, doesn't it?
Alcohol and hot flushes.
Oh, so good for us perimenopausal, menopausal.
Because it's really good for the liver. Yeah, and hot flushes can be, you know, something to do with liver being slightly overwhelmed, which is another reason to do the program, because all the oil is taken out at the beginning, because that's one of the liver's chief tasks, is to deal with oil and fat. So you take that out, take the alcohol out, take the kudzu. Liver has an absolute holiday and gets on with the fat burning, and the fat just melts off. Really, really good. So I really recommend that kudzu. And you can get it on Amazon. And well, maybe Lisa could put something up later. So it's so silly, I can't say it. It's called Planetary Herbals. There you go.
Okay, Planetary Herbals. I'll have a little look for that, and I will put a few links to the things we've spoken about. Kudzu, I'm going to get on that. So do you take it in the morning, in the evening? How many do you take?
Take it without food, best mid-morning, even though it's like breaking your fast. It's not really, it's just herbs. And again, mid-afternoon. So experiment with the dose. Yeah.
See, that's really interesting you said that, because I was wondering in the morning when I was trying to do my 16-8 fasting, and I was like taking a handful of like turmeric and my shatavari and all my different little herbs and, you know, glow vitamins. I was like, am I technically eating now? Is this breaking the fast? Should I wait until when I'm actually consuming food to take the vitamin? I don't know. Sometimes I get confused.
It's a really good question. And I often wondered about it too myself in the past. Anything that affects our blood sugar or insulin, so it's going to increase our blood sugar, is taking us out of fasting, which is why black coffee and green tea and things are not really allowed on the program, you know, especially, well, between meals anyway. With meals, it's fine. Our blood sugar's going up anyway. But as far as I know, turmeric and things like that don't have a marginal effect on the blood sugar. So I think it's absolutely fine.
Okay. And what about aloe vera? Taking aloe vera juice with the turmeric, which really helps. That's the carrier as well, doesn't it? To help the gut and everything absorb it a bit more. But
Yeah,
again, that wouldn't be fasting if I took that.
no,
So,
that's not really fasting. And have a look at the label as well. You want to make sure there's no weird preservatives, anything that looks a bit funny. So best
well,
thing is to have
I
your
take
own.
I take the pucker one. I think the pucker one's quite clean.
I love puppy, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I love the pucker one. So I take that. I'm just having a little look. We've already covered the water with meals, sugar bugs, sugar bug.
Sugar bug, sugar monster, could
And
see.
then Vivi Mags is saying, what about wine? Is it very bad? I mean, a little, close your ears, Petronella, a little cheeky glass every now and then is fine, let's be honest.
It's fine. If you're doing that first 16 days, no wine. Just say no. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to get my liver working as well as possible. After that, it's fine.
Yeah.
Some people don't have an off switch, so have a glass and then think, oh, that was great, I'll have another glass, and then kind of lose control over what we're eating and drinking and everything else.
I don't understand that at all. I mean, delicious glass of wine, don't want another one. That's not me. Let's see who else is on here that has got any questions. Oh, what foods do you recommend for someone who experiences acid? So I imagine you're meaning like an acid reflux reaction.
Yeah, acid reflux is a funny one because it feels like there's too much acid, but very often the original problem was not enough stomach acid. And what happens then is the food ferments. It goes from the stomach into the small intestine. If there's not enough acid in the stomach, then it starts fermenting, and the kind of acid that comes up is lactic acid. And everybody thinks, oh, I've got too much acid. So try apple cider vinegar with your meal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And another really good supplement, betaine HCl. Because again, when we're in fight or flight, when we're stressed, we're not in the mood to digest anything. We're in the mood to run away or fight. So all the energy is diverted from digestive juices and things like that to our muscles so we can get away. And if that keeps happening, we put less and less energy into making that stuff, and we get worse and worse at digesting things.
Gosh, so could you have an apple cider vinegar, say, for example, before you have your coffee? Would that be the best thing to sort of align the... Well, that wouldn't taste very nice, though, would it? You'd be like...
I'd have it with meals. And
right, okay.
This is really good. And I discovered it last year because we do 3 months with no booze at the beginning of the year. And it was apple cider vinegar in a wine glass with fizzy water. And the fizzy water needs to be very cold. And it goes a beautiful pink colour. And it tastes actually really nice. I know it sounds disgusting, but it tastes nice and it looks pretty. And it's really good for your digestion. Really good.
So that's your cocktail?
That's our cocktail. Exactly. Perfect.
Did you put a little bit of the bitters in there? Did you?
Even better. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it the Angus something
Angus
bitters?
bitters, yeah.
Yeah.
Have a tiny amount of alcohol, but I mean, that's neither here nor there.
Okay, so you could put a little bit of the apple cider vinegar, a little bit of the bitters, and really cold fizzy water, and you've got yourself a little Aperol spritz-ish.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you feel better just looking at it.
Okay, and what did you say that thing beginning with B is, the vitamin that we should take to help the stomach acid?
So it's betaine. Betaine, it comes from sugar beet.
Okay. Betaine. I'll have a little look at that as well.
Yeah, really good. Really
amazing, Petronella. Just knowledge is coming at me. Bam, bam, bam. But I am quite hungry now.
And just thinking, other, natural anti-inflammatories would be things like, ginger, curcumin or turmeric. Anything that's got antioxidants in it, any kind of herbs like rosemary, thyme, basil, sage, all of those things are super anti-inflammatory, super good for us, and all feed the lovely microbes in our gut as well. So really good.
And Rachel has said, Rachel Millie Sayers has said, what's the best protein for vegans?
That's a difficult one. I would probably say tempeh, which is fermented soy protein. And because it's fermented, it's good for our gut, and it is actually high in protein because it's soy. But it's tough to find enough protein in a vegan diet. But not so much the protein as, the omega-3 again. So if you are vegan, please do take an omega-3 supplement.
Because I guess the krill is obviously fish.
Yeah.
And then the other omegas is the DMA. What did you say it was?
DHA is also fish.
So that's all from fish. So that's really hard. God, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. now you can get vegan DHA, EPA, and it's from algae, from seaweed. So,
Right.
yeah, so really, because otherwise you'd just be in a state of inflammation, and that's not good for you. Yeah.
No, because a lot of people that not a lot, but a few people that have turned vegan have said, I've just put on loads of weight. Like, look at my stomach, it's really bloated. And I'm like, you know, and that's due to a lot of things. Like, I mean, obviously the omegas, the inflammation, but also some vegans that I know, they will substitute, you know, like you can get some of those processed, not spam, but like a vegan spam or a vegan, like, and I'm just like, don't eat it. Like, if you're going to eliminate that stuff, just don't eat it. Go for, I guess, your chickpeas and your lentils, but then you're going to get really bloated and really gassy all the time.
Hard to digest. It depends on the kind of microbes in our gut, probably. But a good tip is to get a bit of kombu, which is a sort of seaweed, and when you're boiling up the beans, you know, kidney beans or whatever, put the kombu in, because that actually helps to break down some of the things that we find difficult to digest. So that can really help. But that is the thing with the vegan diet. It is naturally high in carbs and low in protein.
Gosh, tricky, really tricky.
And take B12 as well. Very important.
B12.
Yeah.
Yeah, B12. You need that, don't you? Because because I know when I switched to being a pescatarian, it was so lovely. I saw my butcher, and obviously I hadn't gone to the butcher for ages, and he said, "Where have you been?" And I felt like I cheated on him. And I said, "Oh, John, I don't eat meat anymore." And he was like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, do you know what, young lady? You need to get yourself to Holland and Barrett. You need to go and get yourself a B complex, because there's lots of B vitamins that you get in meat that you can't get from fish." And I just thought, I just wanted to hug him. I was like, what a lovely man.
Really lovely.
And then I looked into it, and I said, "Do you know what? I've been feeling really tired, really tired." And he said, "That's what it is. Mark my words." And I did some research, and he was absolutely right. So as soon as I started taking a B12, my energy increased, you know, because for a few weeks I was a bit like, really wiped out.
After you stopped eating meat, was it like quite a few months or a year or two before you started feeling you were depleted?
It was about 4 months, I think.
Yeah, it takes a while to wind down, because it's one of the few vitamins that we store, that and vitamin D. Yeah, but well, we store the fat soluble ones, so E and A and K and things, but the water soluble ones, most of them, the B vitamins, we can't store them, so we have to keep replenishing them.
Okay, good tips.
Yeah.
Again, just amazing chats. Thank you, Petronella. I know that you've got a website that people can go to, and just make sure you drink a lot of water as well. Water, water, water.
You're so good, darling. Yeah, absolutely spot on. Right. Yeah. So what are you going to have for dinner tonight?
That I don't know, because I'm not organised today. Yesterday I had George's brother came over, and I was like, "Oh, you're going to stay for dinner?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I sort of looked in the fridge, and my favourite kind of meals are making something out of nothing. Yeah. So I had some tomatoes, I had loads of herbs, I had some asparagus. I may have sinned and had a tiny bit of quinoa, but I put it with spring onions and herbs and some toasted almonds, and just bulked up a meal and just made something out of the fridge. But today the fridge is bare. So it's either run out and go for dinner, or order some sashimi without the rice. Some sashimi, and maybe I could have, you know, like a miso soup and some, you know, tofu or something.
Nice, good. That's
delicious. What are you having?
I don't know. Go to Ricardo's tonight, and my son's just back. He's been in Sweden. He's had a lovely time. So I'm not sure. We had what did we have lunch? Chicken. So probably some fish. Yeah. But
yummy.
I'm not going to have tagliolini again. No pasta tonight. God, that was good.
Once a week, though.
Once a week. Twice.
It's got to be done.
Yeah.
Twice a year. Just in truffle season. I mean, you know.
Actually,
thank you so much.
With scrambled eggs as well.
Truffles?
Yeah, delicious.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love my eggs, and my eggs don't like me. They just don't like me. I just get... No, it's fine. And I thought that by giving them a break, because when I was on Capital, they used to call me Eggy Snowdon, because I always had a boiled egg in my bag, which isn't the most sociable thing to carry around with you, let me tell you. But yeah, I used to love a boiled egg. And my body just, I just ate them. It's like anything. It's just too much of a good thing.
Yeah, too much. How long ago?
I stopped about 5 years ago.
Could be worth trying, seeing if your body's going to forgive an egg now.
I do every now and then, but then I honestly get moody when I have eggs. It's so weird.
It's really weird.
It's like, and I said to George, I'm in a foul mood, and then he's like, and I'm like, maybe it was the egg, and he was like, don't be ridiculous. Foods can't make you moody. And I said, I think they can. I think if your body doesn't like them,
definitely make you moody. Yeah. You put your little bugs into a really bad temper down there. They don't like that.
So I see the headline, eggs made me moody.
Yeah.
You know, just blame it on the eggs. Not my hormones or time of the month, just the eggs.
Yeah.
But you're gorgeous. We all adore you.
Thank you. Adore you.
Human Being Diet, remember, I'm going to put a link to buy it on, it's available on, well, you can have a look at Petronella's website, you can get it on Amazon, and I'm going to post up all the vitamins. But thank you for watching. Thank you, Petronella, for all your amazing knowledge. And let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Fantastic. Love it
again.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Thank you, my darling. Thanks so much.
Have a good night.
Bye, Dan. You too.
Bye, everyone. Take care.